We're talking about all the TTRPGs you need to check out at GenCon today on Dungeon Craft.
Deathbringer here. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and sign up for the Deathbringer RPG newsletter below.
Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm Professor DM, and this channel is about all things role-playing games. Today we're going to be talking about GenCon, which is starting this week. Before we start, I am going to be appearing at a few different events at GenCon. First up is the Great Gooey Dungeon Game Show with Phineas Goo from Gooey Cube and Luke Gygax, and that's going to be Friday at 10 a.m. Then Lurking Fears presents Hack with Impunity, a panel with Kelsey Dion, Ben Milton, Baron DeRob, Seth Skorkowski, Bob Worldbuilder, Justin Alexander, Saturday at 4 p.m. Then I have a solo seminar called The First 10 Minutes, Saturday at 8 p.m. I'm going to go over what I do in the first 10 minutes of my game, like how I set it up, how I use the UDT, and I'm going to be going over some tips for maximum player engagement Saturday, 8 p.m. So, when I hit the exhibition hall at GenCon, I operate right to left, starting with the higher numbers, walking through the aisles methodically. And these are the 16 booths I'm definitely going to stop at. Let's get into it. First up, Kingdom Death Monster, which is not a role-playing game, but I love their miniatures. They are stunning. They are works of art. And it is a fantastic booth to behold with the miniatures in glass cases. It looks like a museum. I met Adam Poots, the designer of Kingdom Death, last year. We had a great conversation. I probably won't be able to get into the booth to buy anything. That's a really long line. It stretches to the back of the convention hall because these Kingdom Death fans are nuts. If you've never played it, it's essentially a combat strategy, kind of dungeon crawler-ish, kill the monster kind of game. Really cool. I really like it, but I love the miniatures. So I may not make it into the booth, but I'm going to look outside the booth, and if the lines are too long, I'll come back later, and that's at booth 3309 and 3003. Next up, Lamentations of the Flame Princess. That is booth 2937, and the publisher, James Radji, was kind enough to send me some previews. Lamentations of the Flame Princess is based on Malve BX, and these scenarios are pretty much compatible if you play Shadow Dark, Old School Essentials. Lair of the Brain Eaters showcases this game's gonzo style. No dwarves baking artisanal bread here. Strict time records must be kept by Kelvin Green. Sees the player characters poisoned and they have to get the antidote before they die. The Yellow Book of Breckwald is a campaign setting and scenarios set in Lamentations version of England. Each of these is about 50 pages in length and will last a few sessions. Then we have Don't F the Priest by James Radji himself. It's a boxed campaign module. And I always described Lamentations as what people in the 1980s were afraid Dungeons & Dragons was actually like. I haven't read this yet, but apparently use these cards to randomly generate encounters. Looks very cool. I gotta say, I've never seen a cover like this before. And this is Jamestown and its environs, set in the Lamentations version of the Virginia colony. A description of Jamestown and its environs, and the monsters that live there. More monsters and an index. And a version of Fantasy Virginia that is populated with monsters, fungi, murderous cicadas, and a monster called the Spine Snapper, as well as this Game Master screen. And Lamentations stuff may not be to your taste, but you gotta say, they don't skimp on the quality. Next up, Arcane Library 2856 to check out the ENnie-nominated Shadow Dark. I have talked a lot about this game. It is a fantastic reimagining of Dungeons & Dragons, mixing old school deadly dungeon crawling with new school mechanics. Take a look at the quality here. I got the deluxe edition and the basic edition, and this is really sturdy binding stitches. We got a ribbon. This is the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual all in one. Plus, I'm sure they're going to be selling Cursed Scroll. You got 3 zines, but these books have everything you need to run the game in them. What a tremendous value. All you need to run years of this game is right here. Look at this Game Master screen. Sturdy cardboard, treasure, name charts, fantastic art. If you haven't picked up Shadow Dark yet, you have to stop at the Arcane Library booth. Next up, Free League. I don't think anyone makes more beautiful looking games than Free League. Of course, there's Alien and Merc Bori, but Vaesen, Into the Odd, and Symbaroum. People have been asking me for a review of Symbaroum for the longest time. This is a great looking book. It is actually a very simple D20 based system. Vaesen I haven't actually read yet, but I love the art layout. The art is really unique and creepy. It's Nordic horror role-playing. Really excited about it. And then we have Into the Odd, Chris McDowell's masterpiece. That and Electric Bastion Land. And it's one of the most influential role-playing games in terms of mechanics that's come out in the last few years. So you should check it out. And I almost forgot Blade Runner, which I'm actually going to be running at an event. That event is sold out, but you can check out this book. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love the slick pages, the art, the maps. It is so evocative. This is an absolutely beautiful book, and I can't wait to run Blade Runner.
There's a YouTube channel, but you're not helping it, Leon. Press the subscribe button. Thank you.
Now, Free League publishes Merc Bori and Pirate Borg. But you can also buy Pirate Borg at booth 2138 from Limithron. I reviewed Pirate Borg in a recent episode. This game is great, and they're going to have tons more stuff, tons of adventures, tons of support material. You're going to love it, and they will be at booth 2138. Next up, Cubicle 7. Publishers of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition and the upcoming Victoriana 5e RPG and the legendary Enemy Within campaign. The campaign has been totally reimagined. Even if you don't play Warhammer, you could still run the Enemy Within campaign. I've done it and adapted it for Deathbringer and Dungeons & Dragons. I'm sure you could do the same thing for Shadow Dark. I think it is one of the best campaigns ever written, particularly the chapter Shadows over Bogenhofen and Power Behind the Throne. And Cubicle 7 can be found in Cubicle 2121. Next up, 1515, where I'm going to be checking out Mantic. Now, Mantic does not make role-playing games, but they make high-quality board games like Labyrinth and the Firefight tabletop battle game, and fantastic sci-fi and fantasy terrain. Here is a box. I got it last year at GenCon. I haven't even opened it from the shrink wrap, but this is great. This is a tavern set, and the cool thing about Mantic miniatures is they're made of this rubber-like plastic that takes craft paint really well. So you don't have to waste your GW paints. You could use craft paint, and these will not break. So if you got kids, they're not going to be able to break your little table's legs off. If you've been watching this channel a long time, you know I love crafting. I used to craft little tables and doors and show you how to do it. But to be honest, you could just spend $20, get these, paint them up, have them table ready in just a couple hours, and it'll only run you about $20, and they're always doing a 2-for-1 sale, so don't forget to check out Mantic. Next, I'm heading to booth 1405. Games Plus. Games Plus is the finest games retailer in the Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect area of Illinois, home of Sebastian Maniscalco and my Aunt Vivian. And they set up shop at GenCon, and they sell lots of old games. So if you are looking for reprints of Tomb of Horrors, Lost City, Keep on the Borderlands, or the AD&D Battle System, that is where you're going to find it. Last year I stopped by their booth, and there I met Michael Whitwer, author of the D&D Cookbook, John Peterson, author of Playing at the World, and this year's Making of the Original D&D, and Joe Manganiello. Michael was kind enough to send me a copy of his book, The Legend of Drizzt. This is the kind of stuff you're going to find at Games Plus. So if you're looking for old school stuff, definitely stop at Games Plus, booth 1405. Our next stop is Ninth Level Games in booth 555. Ninth Level Game publishes the very excellent Sword and Sorcery Mazes, great fantasy role-playing game, as well as Cobalt's Ate My Baby. It is just wacky, comedic fun. You play a kobold loyal to King Torg, and anytime is mentioned, everyone on the table has to shout, "All hail King Torg." And there's all different types of cute kobolds you can play, like bureaucrats, court jesters, cowboys, criminals, and my favorite, the rules lawyer. It uses the same system as Mazes, if you're familiar with that. I played this one last year, tons of fun, also nominated for a Game of the Year. Next up is Chaosium, booth 511. This has always been one of my favorite booths. They always have cool Cthulhu statues and stuff like that. But in addition, they make great games, including Call of Cthulhu, basic role-playing 7C, and RuneQuest. And Mike Merles, lead designer of 5E, is now working there. He's going to be running RuneQuest. Here's my copy of the game. RuneQuest is a skill-based system, and armor absorbs damage and character hit points don't really increase, so it's both more realistic. It doesn't get sloggy with hit point bloat like that ampersand game, and it's easy to understand if you've ever played Call of Cthulhu. Always stuff in the Chaosium booth. There's no doubt I will be heading there. Next up, Fate of the Norns, booth 470. I'm a big fan of Andro Valkauskas and his Viking game, and you've never seen anything like it. There's nothing that looks like Fate of the Norns. Everything about Fate drips Viking folklore. It is a diceless system. Instead of using dice, you use runes because Vikings didn't use dice. And everything about this game is authentically Viking and very evocative, from the art to the mechanics. I also have this illuminated Edda. It's written in prose form instead of verse, making it very accessible, but this is first-rate stuff here at this booth. And Andrew's got one of the best Game Master voices I've ever heard, so I'll definitely be swinging by that booth. And now we're down to the final 5. And up next is 259, Troll Lord Games, publishers of Castles and Crusades. Castles and Crusades is what 2nd edition D&D would have been if Gary Gygax had remained with TSR and never left the company. It's advanced Dungeons & Dragons, but revised for consistency. And I highly recommend it if you're one of those players who are older, you want to get back into the game, but your parents got rid of your old books. And CNC has the Reforged version coming out. I think their Kickstarter just ended, so they may have some preview copies there that you can check out. Number 4 in booth 249 are Talsorian Games, publishers of Cyberpunk, Mechton, Castle Falkenstein, The Witcher, and more. Our Talsorian's been rocking it since the 80s, and its publisher is Maximum Mike Pondsmith, designer of Cyberpunk, and it's a family affair over there at Talsorian. Lisa and Cody Pondsmith also are game designers. They worked on The Witcher, which I gave a very good review, and that is one booth I never skip. Moving on to booth 203, Paizo. This is one of the biggest booths in GenCon, and one of the reasons I work my way right to left is because by Saturday or Sunday, the lines have finally calmed down over there at Paizo. It's going to be a wait to get in because they make such great stuff. Now, I know what you're saying. Professor, you hate Pathfinder because you did that video all those years ago, how Pathfinder 2 wasn't as big as Pathfinder 1. Well, that was before the OGL scandal, and since then, Pathfinder has been en fuego. Here's a picture of me and Eric Mona. Everything is copacetic. And I love Paizo, and not just their games. All the battle mats are really cool. The pre-painted minis. Those Goblin pre-painted minis are some of the best you can get. I still have them in my banner. And, of course, I have this guy, my Goblin Piggy Bank. I love the Pathfinder Goblins. They are so cute. I put all my spare change in this guy all year just so I can go to GenCon. So, booth 203. Coming down on the wire, booth 121, Cobalt Press. And they are the largest third-party publisher of 5e products, as well as their own variant, Tales of the Valiant, which I understand was, I think, the 3rd or 4th most played game at GenCon last year. And those Cobalts have tons of great stuff in that booth. That's another booth where there's a bit of a crowd. I wasn't able to get close enough to say hi until like the last day last year. But I love their stuff, especially the Vault of Magic. I'm a little biased there because I'm actually in that one, but the Cobalts make great stuff, and they're going to be booth 12. And finally, number 1 in booth 109, Goodman Games. You'll be able to recognize them by their giant ziggurat that rises up over all the other booths. Goodman makes Dungeon Crawl Classics, Mutant Crawl Classics, Lankmar, tons of 5e compatible modules. They were kind enough to send me a preview of what they're going to have at GenCon. Let's check it out. This is their latest, their 100th adventure. Music of the Spheres is Chaos, and this is fantastic. It's got an amazing spinning dungeon map that I can't even fit in the frame and show you, as well as the new deluxe 3-volume set of The Dark Tower. It is a conversion and homage, and you can get the 5e version or the DCC version. And it comes with 3 hardcovers and editorials by luminaries like Eric Mona of Paizo, Pathfinder fame. And what a tremendous tribute to Janelle Jacquez, who passed this year. And if you love old school gaming like I do, this is a must-have. And those are the booths I'm going to be going to at GenCon. But I probably missed a couple. If I did, put them in the comments below. Also below, you'll find a link to Dungeon Craft Patreon, where you can get tons of extra bonus content, including an extended version of this video. And I'm going to talk there about a couple of extra booths I'm going to be visiting that I didn't have time for, as well as giving you my top 5 survival tips for GenCon. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, may all your rolls be 20s.
Do I get to go to GenCon this year?
No, you're still banned for what you did at the Dungeon Dudes party.
Oh, you think they still remember that?
Yes.
Whatever. Get your tickets to the events below and watch more Dungeon Craft.